get started anyway, because we are at time and people can filter in as and when. Yeah, I think if we start off with a mirror, that would be fab. So, but yes, thank you very much for joining us here today. So this is the first community sprint stakeholder review for our web development sprints. Let me try and find my notes here. So if you haven't attended one of our reviews before, these are really short, informal sessions, and they're just designed to give high-level overview of what we've been working on and give you the opportunity to see a demo and ask questions and give us feedback. So just in case you haven't noticed, there's attendees from all different institutions on this call today, and that's because this is our community sprint programme. And this is a sort of cross-institutional collaborative effort where lots of different institutions across the globe really come together to work on different areas of the universal viewer. So just in case, I think probably everyone on this call is familiar with the UV, but just in case you're not, it's in very simple terms, it's a piece of open source software that allows our users to access digital content. So it's a consistent interface for all collection items, whether that be images, documents, multimedia, or 3D. Open source software is free and to use and distribute, and it's developed collaboratively, which is what we're doing here with the Universal Viewer. So we've got a really rich, diverse and engaged community working on the UV, and for the past 18 months now, I keep saying a year, but I think it's actually 18 months. We've been running a series of community sprints. Yeah. It's gone quick. And so basically members of the community all come together and we pick an area to work on and we all throw ourselves at it. And it's a really good way of getting things done really quickly, getting a very diverse range of opinions and skill sets. And it's just, I think, the way that a modern library should be working, to be honest. And this way of working, it's really part of our strategic vision as a community. And we're working on a roadmap for development that will embed these sprints into the future. So I think that's quite a good opportunity to introduce our community team as it is now. And I want to stress that this can change because anybody is welcome, basically. So my name, in case you don't know me, I'm Miriam Bonanza, and I'm product owner for the Universal Viewer at the British Library. I'm also chair of the Universal Viewer Steering Group. I'm joined by my team, who also work at the British Library. So we've got Sarah Atka, who is a research software engineer, James Misson, who is also a research software engineer, but for the purposes of these sprints is also co-product owner with me. And we have Lani Okaridudu, who is our testing engineer. We have Sarah Wheel, who is our Scrum Master, keeping us all in check, and her colleagues, Mark Gavier and Jonathan, I've forgotten your sir, it's Phillips, isn't it?
Yes.
At the National Library of Wales. We have Jeff Shaw from Siemens, and our newbie, I can't believe I'm forgetting Damien Katz. So Damien Katz, Mr. UV, he is from Villanova. He's very, very, very long history with the UV, and sends his apologies for this session. And our newbie for this session, so we seem to have one for each sprint, is Stacey Reddick from Design for Context, but she's also heavily involved with the IIIF accessibility and usability group. So she's been a great perspective to have on this sprint. So you can see we have a really wide range of backgrounds and skills of expertise, and that really benefits the UV. So I mentioned earlier, this series of sprints, and it's a series of 4 sprints, is focusing on improving our website. So like many projects, the UV has suffered from a lack of resource in past years. And we're really lucky at the moment, we've got a really active team. So our focus for the past 18 months has really been throwing ourselves and taking advantage of this active team and going back to basics and really sorting the areas that were slightly neglected, that get pushed to the back of the pile. This was sort of like documentation, improved onboarding, technical debt. And we're now in a position to tackle the Universal Viewer website. And you can see why it sort of got pushed to one side, because it looks pretty good. It's a nice website, it's okay. But increasingly, we've been getting feedback that we really need to address. There were lots of broken links. People weren't really understanding what the UV was. There's no option to access the latest stable version, which isn't ideal in any way, shape, or form, and the information was out of date. So our GitHub pages are really comprehensive, I would say. But if you're not technical user, if you're not a developer, they can be a little bit scary sometimes. So the barrier to contribution for a non-technical user, and by that I mean not a developer, I'm not talking about somebody that's frightened of computers or anything, was really quite high. So with all this in mind, we established our product goal. So if you can take me to the Miro board. So this is where we work. We work on a Miro board that Sarah sets up. So she wrestles with Miro on behalf of the community. And so we wanted to transfer ownership and maintenance to the community because we weren't sure if we had that. We weren't able to make these updates so that we can make the Universal Viewer website a sustainable and authoritative resource that makes clear what it is, showcases the latest stable release, and connects users to relevant information and fosters an active community participation. And in that product goal are our two sort of, you could call them pillars if you wanted to use that speak. We really want it to be a sustainable product, and we really want that community to be backing it up. And that's been our focus over the past 18 months. So that product goal was really going to support that. And so it's pretty ambitious. It could involve a whole website design. So we thought it was crucial that our first sprint was going to be a discovery sprint. So really doing that research. And so our MVP was to identify our audiences and their needs, gain access to the current site, was pretty fundamental, and provide recommendations for future technical infrastructure. And you can see our definition of done is to document the users and usage of the UV, current site credentials, host infrastructure options, and define roles for site creation and maintenance. So real sort of foundational work. So should we go to do you want to say anything, Sarah, about how you organise the work as Scrum Master, how you did anything, or should we go to the board?
We have a Miro board, which we use as our project board, which contains all the information anybody should need to start off with one of our community projects. It gives you guidelines, tells you the product goal, which we always define at the beginning of the first sprint, gives you links to the community project board, which is our project board that is, it won't let me click, that's fine. Is not the sprint specific board, but it's the general community board, and then we have the project board there. Please go and join our Slack. The community splits channel on Slack is where we are most chatty. And then this is our GitHub Universal Viewer, and it gives you everything. It gives you a calendar. I set up a calendar with an ICS file. It gives you the times and the dates of all our information. And then this is what we did today, which is our retrospective. We look at what went well, what didn't go so well, what we'll do better next time, and then what actions we take forward into the next sprint. So these could take the form of sprint tickets, or it could be team goals. We set up team goals for our team in each beginning of each sprint. So you can see we've got things like support each other, working together as a new team, because we do have new members, gaining experience in user experience and understanding the user journey, which Erin will go over in the next section. Balancing community sprint work with day-to-day commitments is quite a big thing for us, as most of us, this is an additional responsibility on our daily tasks. So that can clash sometimes, and we've learned some lessons in this sprint about that. And then we have other goals, team goals for the sprint. So we take those forward into the next one and learn from those each time. And we also like to use GIFs, obviously, because why not? I will take you now into the project board.
Yeah, and I just want to stress how much I know as an organisation we at the BL have learned from Sarah and her colleagues at the National Library of Wales about agile working and things like that. We've got Stacey on board with whose goal was to learn about that way of working. So it's a really, really good way to all learn from each other and to benefit from each other's expertise. And of quite a low risk way of learning as well, because you're sort of very supported. But anyway, here's our GitHub board, and for this sprint, it seemed to have two separate streams. So we had the discussions and the tasks around the infrastructure, and then we had the sort of UX side of things. So I'll just take you through the UX bits because that's what I know about. So our first task was to gather existing research. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. The UV community, we are pretty safe to assume it's spread all over. So there'll be all sorts of different types of research. We put a request out on Slack to see if anybody wanted to share anything. They didn't, but that's fine. We managed to find stuff anyway, and we put all that in a central sort of location. So that was really useful. Because it's the first stage of any type of UX project is to gather what you've got already. Then we looked at identifying and documenting user groups. So this is a huge bit of work that Lanny did here, and you can see. And just want to point out these at this stage are based on assumptions, and that's fine. That's absolutely fine because this then can feed into our next stage of our research, which will be to actually ask the users to confirm or our assumptions or to say that they're wrong. So it's a really good place to be. And it would be great if anybody on this call can actually take a look and say, well, I identify as a institutional adopter, and you're absolutely wrong on that assumption. And then for each profile, we then looked at user journeys. And again, these are to some extent assumed, and they're examining like a current state. So this isn't our ideal state. This is the current state as it is. So really thinking about pain points and opportunities for future content on our website or anywhere really, but really focusing on the website. So could we have a community calendar? Do we need to make it clearer where you go for community support? And always thinking of our ultimate aim is to have a really engaged, sustainable community, because that's what we want. Our ideal sort of state would be that any of the people here on this call could be replaced by somebody else. Not that I think don't want you to be replaceable, but that's the ideal. That if we all went tomorrow, this could be picked up and carried on by somebody else, and that's really our ultimate aim. And so it's a considerable piece of work. And as usual, we slightly underestimated how much of a big piece of work it was at the beginning, but we do tend to do that. So this will be built on in the second, an ongoing sprint. And James, can I hand over to you to talk through the technical side of things, the infrastructure tickets?
Sure, yeah. Shall I share? I don't have the board up in front of me. Maybe, Erin, is this you sharing? There we go. Okay, thank you. I'll just go off this. Yep, so a lot of this was about gaining access to the current infrastructure. I think we were conscious that there's going to be some attention on UV in the next few weeks, both with UVCon, the conference next week, but also it's been nominated for an Open UK award for community-driven open software. So that event is happening in December. And we thought there's going to be some eyes on the project from external, not even from different institutions, but also from people not even familiar with the work that these institutions do. So we were conscious we wanted to sort of update the website that had been gathering dust somewhat. And I think actually this was, unlike the user experience side of things, a case of overestimating the task nicely, because I think we all had this fear that it would be some outdated piece of infrastructure that would take us a long time to get access to, and exchanging passwords and then having to run updates and things. The kind of thing where you think, if I make one small change, the whole thing's going to topple down and it'll be a nightmare. But luckily, once we sussed it out where the website was actually coming from, it was extremely straightforward. So how it works currently is that it's if you're familiar with GitHub, you have your repo on GitHub, which is normally a way of versioning and storing code. But there's also this feature where you can build an app or a website immediately from the repo, and that's run through GitHub, and it's just done through that. So it's this thing called GitHub Pages. So whatever state the code is in on the repo, that is just reflected on the hosted on the visible front end website. So it was simply a case of pushing a PR in GitHub speak, which is just a change and edit onto GitHub, and then that gets updated 10 minutes later on the website. And this was true for both universalviewer.io, which we just saw on the screen, but also the UVCon website. So by means of testing this process, we updated this website for the upcoming UVCon. So one of our workshops, so we sometimes hold workshops after the sprints where we sort of we share a screen and we do some like live coding, and we all sort of have input on the work as it happens, which is really fun. It's like a nice way to work. So we did it with this one, and we kind of bashed about a bit with the HTML on the GitHub repo, and then pushed it to update it. So 2 birds with 1 stone there. It was testing the infrastructure, but also updating this website. And then the next workshop was to do the same for the main Universal Viewer website. So that's all up to date. So we wanted to get that, bare minimum accurate and links all working, and have a description that actually says what the UV does, because we had some complaints of it being quite obscure. So that's all more explicit now. So then the other part of the work was finding out how we wanted to build the new website. So Jonathan at the National Library of Wales did some research on different tools that are used by developers to build these kind of like we call them static websites. They don't really change much. They're not the content doesn't come from a database. So we looked into different things, ranging from some familiar names like WordPress to more modern tools. There's a thing called Astro, for instance, and that's actually the one we settled on in the end. There's a growing community around this tool, and it's used mostly for building blog-like sites, so quite like content rich sites. And the arrangement, after doing all of that research and coming together and discussing it, the arrangement we settled on was having a plain HTML, CSS static site like this one, and then a blog system with Astro, and then that's all. We're just going to keep the GitHub Pages thing because it's straightforward, and we're all familiar with GitHub. So yeah, that's the arrangement we settled on in the end: Astro, static front page, and GitHub repo. I think that's pretty much it. So yeah, we thought this would be just sort of research, but I think we got pretty far along. We started digging into the actual means of doing it as well. So we've got a head start on the next sprint, I think. Yeah. Any questions? I think there was a lot of like technical terminology there. So let me know if anything needs clarifying.
I'm just stopping sharing because I can't unmute myself. I'm sharing for some reason. It wants to move me around. James, well, do you want to take over the sharing of the website? And we thought this might be quite a nice opportunity for people to visit the UV website as it currently is. I just want to stress that this is a work in progress. That the work we did in this sprint was, as James mentioned, it was to test access the current infrastructure and remove the sort of dead links. But I'd be really interested if people could take a look and maybe sort of think, what would they expect to see in a website about Universal Viewer? Is it there currently? Is it not? Is it missing? Thinking about your role and your understanding of the UV, what should be on there, in an ideal situation? Is there anything that you hate? Is there anything that you really like and we should keep? Basically any feedback would be really good. I've put the link to the website in the chat if anybody needs it. And yeah, just take a look. So for the purposes of the sprint, I think we mentioned we were successful. We completed all our tasks, mainly because I think it was a bit easier than we thought from the technical side of things. It's not to say that people didn't really work really hard. And while you're taking a look at the website, I'll just say that the date of the next sprint is the 25th of November. And we've got 3 more sprints running right through to February. So at the end of this, we hope to have a totally new website for our users. And if you know anybody that would like to be involved, please pass on the details. Everyone is more than welcome, and there doesn't need to be any sort of technical know-how or expertise, because we really are looking. There's such a big user focus in this work, so you really will be making a big difference. And with regards to upskilling, it's a really good opportunity as well for people in your teams. So yeah, any thoughts? Anything that people really like or hate? I'm interested to know. Oh, I'm looking at me. Or post in the chat. If people are unable to speak, it'll be good. It'll all go towards the next sprint. Team, do you have any questions that you'd like to ask our stakeholders while we're on the call? Okay, well, please take time to look at it, and if anything comes to mind, let us know. Get in touch. Join the Slack channel. We're very active with regards to answering questions or feedback. Your message won't be left. How the universal player and viewer for our terms are the same thing.
Yes, that's what I understand, except that we don't talk about universal player, and it's not. It doesn't seem to me to be expressed there or being sort of developed in as far as I can tell anyway at the moment. By the way, that's no commentary or criticism. It's an observation of where we are, but I'm just curious then as to it's a little bit of a misnomer in a sense, because as a universal viewer, we're not actually, if these two are the same things, then for us it's a player. And for us, I mean, I'm from Sound and Vision, by the way, so yes. So it's not quite the same thing. And then the website and what you've been discussing here about all the types of objects that the universal viewer in our terminology is helping us to display is not making it visible that it includes the audio and audiovisual aspect as well. Yeah. And I'm not sure either where this sort of any development sprints might happen in relation to the AV audio and AV requirements for universal viewer / player.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, and it's not good if it isn't apparent that we do support obviously AV. It's a big priority for us at the VL. We've been having lots of discussions around AV at the moment because we are aware that there's a few issues with AV currently. We have UVCon next Tuesday, and we're doing some technical road mapping. We've been looking into alternatives for the AV side of things. Because as I understand it, it's incredibly we started looking at it and it was incredibly complicated. So we've been talking to our steering group, which includes members from Digirati, who obviously wrote it initially. And they've given us recommendations on the best way forward.
Okay.
One of which is looking into something called RAMP, which the the devs on the team would probably explain a lot better than me. And that's going to be one of our topics of conversation going forward, especially for UVCon, which is effectively a workshop to get these issues, a path for these issues. So it's very much a priority for us going forward. We're aware of the issues. It's obviously been very difficult for us from BL because we have lack of access to content for testing and things. But it's very much on our minds and on our list of things to do and address. So yeah.
Okay. No, that's helpful. Thank you. And just thinking about what it is you need for testing, etc., because we certainly have access to the digital content and we have our catalog back. But I don't know what else of the infrastructure, very little of which we do have back, you need for any of the to take any of these things forward.
Well, maybe we should have a catch up outside of this call and we can go through what we need to do BL specific. I'll put something in the calendar, Janet, if that would be good.
I know my team member Adam Tovel is pretty much taking these forward, but I thought I'd just chime in here and attend this here because he's trying to get sound and vision back up and running in all ways. So he's a bit pulled, but
of course,
thank you. That would be helpful.
But yeah, it is. I think on a more general note, the whole player viewer thing is tricky, and I think it just comes down to it's just a name issue, really, isn't it? But how do we show that it covers all those things? Because it is jarring. I agree to call it a viewer when it was originally.
I have no objection to a name so long as I don't mind what it's called, so long as it's clear what the thing is. And to me, just having a quick glance at now through the website and how it's described, etc., it talks about all sorts of types of objects, but it doesn't talk at all about audio or AV.
Right.
So that's really where I'm coming from. I really don't care what it's called. So
no, but we need to be able to communicate what it does, and that was absolutely one of our priorities. Because we've been asked many times. I think when we promoted things, I know you've got questions, haven't you, James? When you promoted it on like Blue Sky, it's like, well, what actually is it? So yeah, it's important that people, our users, know what we're actually trying to achieve. So
okay, thank you.
No, thank you for your feedback. Has anybody else got any questions or any feedback that we can take through to our next sprint? No? Oh, well, thank you all for taking the time to come. Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say, Erin, that all the different user profiles looked very comprehensive, and I could definitely kind of see where I would fit into that. So it's nice. I know there's a lot of work kind of working all those out. And then the kind of adoption and reasons for adoption and then doing all of those different reasons for adoption for the individual profiles. So yeah, I thought that was really impressive.
Excellent, thank you. That's Lanny's work. So yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, great work, Lanny.
Yeah.
So we took one in Stamford at the second.
Okay, well we're at time, and I won't keep anybody because it's obviously 4:30. I'm sure it's very dark already. But yeah, thanks for taking the time and showing an interest in what we're doing in the community for the UV. There'll be more of these sprint reviews. I will forward invitations on as usual. Feel free to ignore them if you want, or pass them on to the people who are available. It's great to have new people here all the time. But thank you very much.
In the conference next week.
Oh, thank you. Yes, please. UVCon. It's on Tuesday afternoon. It's a half-day session. I popped the link in the chat. We're having a technical and non-technical track, so everybody's contribution is very much welcome. We'd love to see as many people there as possible. So that'd be good. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you soon. Thanks ever so much. Bye.
Bye.